I've always been the kind of guy who triple checks that the stove is off even when I haven't cooked. The kind who carries a mini first aid kit and spare phone charger in his backpack. So naturally, my emergency fund was sacred. I started building it when I was 19. My mom always said, "Life hits hard when you least expect it." And she was right, but I didn't realize it'd be her doing the hitting. By the time I turned 26, I'd scraped together $15,000. That's $15,000 of skipped DoorDash, patched up sneakers, and saying, "I'm good," at birthday dinners while pretending water counted as a meal. It was my safety net. My pride. My invisible suit of armor against rent hikes and hospital bills. My sister Bree? Different story. She's 23, chronically unemployed, and has reinvented herself at least 8 times in the past year. 1 month she was a plant-based mindset coach. Next, she was selling earrings made of beach glass and intention. My parents funded every venture. Every soft launch. Every single time. Meanwhile, I ate tuna from a can and checked my credit score for fun. Now, don't get me wrong. I love my sister. She's got the personality of a human confetti cannon, if confetti could ruin your Wi-Fi password, and blame the dog. But I also knew Brie couldn't keep a cactus alive, let alone a budget. So when I went to pay rent last month and saw $18.56 in my savings account, I assumed I'd been hacked. I called the bank, hard doing full cardio. The guy on the phone sounded almost bored. "Yeah, looks like a withdrawal for $14,820, 02, about 2 weeks ago." My voice cracked. "That account was locked for emergencies only." "Who approved that?" There was a pause. "Looks like your joint authorization was used. The account had your mother listed as a secondary signer." That's when my blood ran cold. Because I'd added her to the account back when I was a freshman in college, just in case something happened to me. You know. An emergency. Apparently, my mom's definition of emergency was, Bree totaled her last car because the vibes were off. I drove straight to my parents' house, still wearing my work badge, pants wrinkled from a 12-hour shift. Bree was in the driveway, leaning against a brand new cherry red Jeep, posting to Instagram like it was a press conference. Caption: Manifestation works nail polish #new whip #grateful vibesonly. I stared at the Jeep. Then I stared at her. And she just waved. "Hey, Ethan! Like the car? Dad says I look like a boss babe." I walked into the house without a word. Mom was in the kitchen, stirring something in a pot like nothing had happened. She smiled. "Hi, sweetie. Hungry? Did you take my savings?" I asked. She didn't flinch. "We borrowed it." "You what?" She sighed like I was being unreasonable. "Your sister needed a vehicle. Her last one died. Her last one died doing donuts in a Whole Foods parking lot. She was in a delicate emotional place," she said. I stared at her, waiting. For an apology. For some kind of explanation. Instead, she just shrugged. "You always manage somehow." No guilt. No shame. Just that. Like I was a sitcom character meant to bounce back every episode no matter what chaos they threw in my direction. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just nodded. And left. Because something in me, something I didn't know existed, had officially snapped. For the next 24 hours, I didn't say a word. Not to Bree. Not to Mom. Not even to the guy who cut in front of me at the gas station and tried to flirt with the cashier while holding up the line with a lottery ticket ritual. I just existed. Quietly. Like a fire drill siren that hadn't gone off yet, but everyone could feel it coming. When I finally opened my laptop that night and logged into my banking portal, I didn't even flinch. I knew the account was empty. But I wanted to see it again, the same way you poke a sore tooth, just to be sure it still hurts. It did. $18.56, mocking me like a punchline. I clicked around, looking through transaction logs. Bree's car dealership popped up. Steel Oak Auto Group. Amount: $14,820. 02. I googled the dealership. Flashy, custom rims, taglines like, "Turn heads, not corners." The kind of place that offers champagne while you destroy your credit score. I dug deeper, and that's when the horror bloomed. The Jeep wasn't even bought. It was leased. Monthly payments of $750. Under my name. No. Not my parents. Not Bree. Me. And to really twist the knife, it was pre-approved using my credit report, one I'd spent years guarding like it was an endangered species. There was a scanned signature authorization form. Mine. Except it wasn't. It was an old document from when I was 17, the year I applied for student loans, and Mom had offered to handle the paperwork. I remember signing a blank form so she could fax something urgent. I didn't think about it again. Until now. I sat back in my chair, heart beating like a bass drum made of betrayal. They hadn't just stolen from me. They'd used my identity like a spare key, something they could yank out of a drawer whenever Bree needed a boost. And what was worse, they didn't even think I'd fight it. A text popped up on my phone. Bree. So, any idea how to connect Spotify to this thing? It's giving Jeep Granddad energy LOL. I stared at the message. Then opened Bree's Instagram again. She'd posted a selfie with the car, tagging it #blessed and #girlbossmove with a caption that read, "Some PPL wait for life to happen. I just drive their kiss mark." In the background of the photo? My parents. Smiling like they were unveiling a statue of Bree in the middle of a public park. I didn't respond. I didn't scream. I didn't key the Jeep, though the image of it played vividly in my mind. Instead, I made a call to Rachel, a college friend who now worked in auto finance. I hadn't spoken to her in a couple years, but she picked up like we'd talked yesterday. "Ethan!" "Hey! What's up?" "Rachel," I said calmly. "How fast can you repossess a vehicle if it was leased using a forged signature?" Silence. Then a slow, deliberate response. "Did your sister finally do something stupid, or did your parents co-sign the apocalypse?" "Both," I said. "Okay. I'm intrigued." I told her everything. The withdrawal. The lease. The signature. She whistled. "Your mom must have Olympic-level audacity. You don't know the half of it." She said she'd get back to me the next day. She had a contact at the dealership and a friend in repossession who owed her a favor after she bailed him out of a warranty fraud situation involving a Winnebago. Don't ask. After I hung up, I sat in the dark, staring at my living room ceiling. Not out of depression. Out of strategy. I'd been the good son too long. The quiet one. The one who always manages somehow. But now, I was going to manage something all right. Their consequences. Rachel wasn't kidding when she said she moved fast. By 9 a.m., the next morning, she'd already texted. "Got the lease docs. Your signature's definitely recycled. Repo is possible. Want me to start the fire?" I replied with a single word. "Burn." She called 5 minutes later, voice all business and zero fluff. "Okay, so here's what we're working with. The lease was executed using an outdated power of attorney you signed in high school. That's sketchy, borderline fraudulent. The good news? The car's not paid off. The dealer still technically owns it. If we convince them the docs are invalid, they'll move fast. They don't like drama. Or non-paying lessees in glitter jackets." I laughed despite myself. "And the bad news?" Rachel clicked her tongue. "You're gonna have to act like nothing's wrong for a few days. If they catch wind you're on the warpath, they'll stall. Delay payments. Play dumb. We want the repo to be a surprise." I leaned back in my chair, nodding slowly. "You want me to ghost my own family? I want you to Beyoncé your way through this. Smile in public. Build a secret empire. Drop the album when they least expect it." So that's exactly what I did. For 4 days, I said nothing. I answered texts with emojis. I even threw a heart reaction on Bree's latest selfie, a poorly lit photo captioned, "Jeepin' into my destiny like nail polish." Mom left me 2 voicemails. The first was suspiciously chipper. "Hey honey, just checking in. Hope you're not still upset. You know we didn't mean any harm. The second was a little more pointed. You need to stop acting like this is some betrayal. It was family money. And you weren't doing anything important with it. That line? You weren't doing anything important with it. That was when I realized, to them, my effort was invisible. My sacrifices didn't sparkle. My grind didn't have Instagram filters. Therefore, it didn't matter. Bree got the car. The support. The celebration. I got the silence, the shrug, and the magical label of, "You always manage somehow." That phrase looped in my head like a cursed ringtone. But I didn't answer. Not with words. Instead, I followed Rachel's instructions like gospel. She had me email the dealership a notarized affidavit contesting the lease authorization. We compiled documentation, timelines, screenshots. She even had me record a video of me physically writing my real signature, just to show how wildly different it was from the one on file. "This is straight-up forensic fraud docu-series stuff," she said. "Honestly? I'm having fun." I told her to get therapy, and she said, "This is therapy." Meanwhile, Bree kept living like nothing was wrong. She posted TikToks from inside the Jeep. One had her doing a dance while the GPS robot said, "Recalculating," over and over. Irony. On day 5, Rachel called. "Okay. Dealerships confirmed the docs look bad. I gave them your formal complaint. They're sending it to legal now. ETA on repossession? Could be 2 days. Could be tomorrow morning." I cracked my knuckles like I was prepping for a duel. She added one more thing. "Oh, and the cherry on top? Your credit's already recovering. I filed a dispute with the bureau. They flagged the account. If it gets cleared, you'll be back in the high 700s. I exhaled slowly, like I'd been holding my breath since the day I saw $18.56 in my bank account. But I didn't celebrate. Not yet. Because revenge wasn't about gloating. It was about precision. About letting them dig their own hole, post about it online, and then watch as reality comes in with a tow truck. And me? I'd be watching from across the street. Coffee in hand. It was a sunny Saturday morning, the kind of morning that makes people in commercials lean on convertibles and say, "Let's take the scenic route." I was parked 2 streets away in my 2009 Subaru Outback. Yeah, the car equivalent of, "I drink black coffee and apologize too much." It had a cracked tail light, a mysterious stain in the back seat, and an air freshener that hadn't worked since the Obama administration. But it was mine. Paid for. And more importantly, not fraudulently leased under someone else's name. I sipped lukewarm gas station coffee, hoodie up, sunglasses on, watching Bree's shiny red Jeep like a hawk in sweatpants. 8:57 a.m. was the timestamp on my phone. And at exactly 9:01, a white tow truck rolled into the cul-de-sac like destiny in steel-toed boots. It was time. The truck was old but reliable, the kind that probably had names like Big Bertha or The Widowmaker stitched into its bumper. On the side, Coleman Recovery Services. Below that, "We take what you can't afford to keep." Dave, the driver, stepped out with the swagger of someone who ruins weekends for a living. Sunglasses mirrored, chewing gum like it owed him rent, clipboard in hand. I could practically hear the "Mission Impossible" theme in my head. He knocked on the front door of my parents' house like he'd done it 100 times. Like this wasn't his first rodeo with families who thought co-signing meant consequence-free. Bree opened the door, in full chaos mode. Messy bun. Hot pink pajama shorts. Girl boss vibes only. Hoodie. I couldn't hear her, but the moment she screamed, "You can't just take my car!" I knew the symphony had begun. Dave pointed to the Jeep, then back to his clipboard. Cool. Calm. Unbothered. King energy. "My dad pays for that!" she shrieked. Dave raised an eyebrow. "Then your dad can call me." Mom burst out the door next. Robe flapping, hair still in curlers, like a suburban soap opera character caught mid-scandal. "What's going on? Who are you? You can't take this car." Dave tilted his sunglasses down. "Ma'am, This vehicle is registered under Ethan Warner. Payments have not been made. Authorization has been revoked. I'm his mother, she shouted, chest puffed. And I'm not his therapist, Dave said, scribbling something on the sheet. Still talking the Jeep. They looked around frantically like this was a prank show. Bree grabbed her phone, probably trying to go live on Instagram. Guys, I think we're being robbed. Call the police. And that's when I stepped out of the Subaru, cup of coffee in hand, like I was walking out of a commercial for poetic justice. Bree froze. Mom gasped. Dad, who had finally emerged from the house in basketball shorts and socks pulled to his knees, just blinked. Oh my God, Bree said. You did this? I took a slow sip. Then I said, I managed somehow. Remember? It hit like a slap made of syllables. You're serious right now? Mom snapped. You let some thug take your sister's car? Your sister. Over some misunderstanding? Misunderstanding? I echoed. You forged my name. You drained my savings. You ruined my credit score. And now you're mad you didn't get away with it? It was just temporary. Bree shrieked. You were gonna be fine. You are fine. Mom added, as if that somehow justified everything. Dave shrugged and hoisted the Jeep like it was a prize on the Price is Right. I turned back toward my Subaru. Where are you going? Dad yelled. Home, I said. To a life I actually earned. And as Dave drove off with Bree's Jeep in tow, her screams fading into the distance like bad karaoke, I realized something. There's nothing more satisfying than watching the people who doubted you realize you're not the same person anymore. You know what's wild? People don't really panic when they do something awful. They panic when they realize you're not going to pretend it's fine anymore. The Jeep was gone. The group chat was quiet. But by nightfall, the phones started lighting up like Times Square on clearance day. First came the texts. Mom, I just don't understand how you could be so cold. We're family. Bree, so you're like the villain now? Congrats on ruining my year. Dad, this wasn't the mature way to handle things. Call me. Right. Because draining my savings, forging my signature, and sticking me with a $750 per month payment was super mature. I didn't answer. Instead, I microwaved leftover lo mein, put on a sci-fi movie, and laughed every time someone got sucked into space without a helmet. Poetic. Rachel texted around 11 p.m. You okay? Heard Dave had a fun day. I sent back. It was majestic. Like a symphony composed by Petty Beethoven. Good. But keep an eye on your credit. People that entitled don't give up easily. At first, I brushed it off. But then, 72 hours later, I got an alert from Credit Safe. New application for a personal loan detected. I stared at my phone like it had called me ugly. The application had been filed online. Under my full legal name. With my old home address. I called the bank instantly. The rep confirmed. It looks like someone attempted to open a line of credit for $25,000. I asked for the IP address and filing location. Guess what? It came from my parents' zip code. They didn't just want a car. Now they wanted to restart the entire con. I froze for a solid 5 minutes. Then I called Rachel. I was hoping I was being paranoid, she said. But nope. That's full-blown identity exploitation. She helped me lock down everything. New security passwords. Fraud alerts. I even froze my credit completely, the financial version of locking every door in a burning building. Then I called my HR rep at work and told her what was going on, just in case they tried to escalate. I'm so sorry, she said. That's horrifying. I laughed. It's family. This is just the sequel. The next day, I drove by the house. The Jeep-shaped void in the driveway was still there. But so was something new, a for sale sign in Bree's bedroom window, half-taped, handwritten, like a desperate Craigslist post in physical form. I wasn't sure if they were trying to sell her room, the drama, or just her pride. Later that evening, I got a voicemail from my dad. You're making a mistake, Ethan. This family has always helped each other when times were hard. Maybe we got off track, but you don't need to blow it up over one misunderstanding. You're not perfect either. There it was. The classic family gaslighting speedrun. Guilt. Revisionist history. False equivalency. Guilt again. I didn't respond. But I did write something down in my notes app. They're not sorry. They're just mad the con didn't work. I got a letter the next day. An actual letter. Ink on paper. From Mom. Inside, a card that said, "We miss you." Surrounded by cartoon ducks and lilies, like I'd been sent to summer camp instead of emotionally defrauded. The note read, "This family isn't whole without you. We made decisions with love. Bree is devastated. We all are. Please come home. Let's fix this together. Let's fix this together." Like I was supposed to help undo the damage they did to me. That's when I knew. There was no fixing this. Not because I hated them, but because I finally loved myself enough to walk away. After the repo, after the forged loan application, after the guilt card covered in duck cartoons and denial, I did what any sane adult with decent Wi-Fi and a slowly brewing personal vendetta would do. I blocked them. Phone? Blocked. Email? Blocked. Venmo? Blocked. Not that they ever sent me money, but something told me Bree would eventually charge request me $600 for emotional labor and loss of luxury. I even reset my security questions. Where were you born? In poverty 69. Your mother's maiden name? None of your business. Number 7. Rachel cheered me on like she was my petty therapist. This is how you build boundaries. Digitally. Financially. Spiritually. But while I was severing connections, I knew it wasn't the access they miss most. It was the money. Because, plot twist, even after all the favoritism, all the lies, I'd still been helping them. Quietly. Ever since my last promotion, I was covering my parents' internet bill. Sometimes the electric too. When Mom needed a root canal last year and said insurance wouldn't cover it, I wired $800 with no questions. I thought I was buying peace. Or at least, maybe a little bit of respect. But nope. Apparently, I was just a walking emergency fund in jeans. So I shut off the faucet. No more quiet coverage. No more digital breadcrumbs. No more saving them from their own recklessness. I didn't say anything. I just let the due dates roll in. And man, did they notice. Mom's Facebook post was the first hint. It's always the ones you love the most who hurt you the deepest. Broken heart. #family first. #ungrateful. Next came Bree, posting a TikTok montage of her crying in front of a blank driveway. Caption. POV, you support your family for years and get stabbed in the back. Broken heart. #Jeep grief. I actually spat out my coffee when I saw she included #car trauma. But the real comedy came by voicemail. 3 messages from Dad in 48 hours, each more dramatic than the last. Voicemail number 1. Ethan, we need to talk. The power got shut off this morning. Your mother's furious. Look, this is still your family. We don't have to agree on everything to support each other. Voicemail number 2. Now the internet's out. Bree's having a hard time. And frankly, we're worried about you. This level of vindictiveness isn't normal. Voicemail number 3. I don't understand who you've become. You're not this cold. This isn't who you are. Ah, yes. The guilt trifecta. We're victims. You're unstable. Let's pretend we didn't push you here. They weren't sorry. They were confused that I wasn't cleaning up their mess anymore. But that wasn't even the best part. No, that honor went to Bree's Instagram close friends story, which someone screenshotted and sent me. Green circle drama. My favorite genre. In it, she's sitting in her dark room, candlelight flickering, and says, "Honestly, I feel like I'm being punished for being loved more. Like, that's not my fault." I laughed so hard I dropped my protein bar. I sent the clip to Rachel. She replied, "New episode of Victim Olympics just dropped." But deep down, behind the sarcasm, I felt something else. Not satisfaction. Relief. Not because they were struggling. but because I finally wasn't the one carrying it. I wasn't the fixer anymore. The emotional accountant. The debt sponge. And you know what? It turns out that when you cut people off, not out of spite, but out of self-respect, they reveal who they really were all along. They weren't panicked because they lost me. They were panicked because they lost control of the version of me they built. The one who'd always manage somehow. The one who'd never say no, even when it cost him everything. Well, guess what? That guy's gone. And the new one? He's got better boundaries, and a fraud alert on his credit profile. It started with a group email. Subject line: "Let's reconnect. Family dinner this Sunday, red heart." The kind of subject line that smells like cheap candles, cold lasagna, and manufactured forgiveness. It was sent from Mom's Gmail. The message inside was classic passive-aggressive poetry. "We all need to move forward. This has gone on long enough. Bree is willing to apologize, and we'd love to sit down like adults and clear the air. You've always been the glue in this family, Ethan. Please don't abandon us now." Glue. That was rich, considering they spent years treating me like duct tape, something cheap to hold things together until it stopped sticking. I stared at the email for a solid 5 minutes before doing what any emotionally evolved adult would do. Nothing. I didn't reply. Didn't decline. Didn't even click. Maybe. I just let it rot in the inbox. But on Sunday, just for fun, I drove by their house around 6 p.m. Bree's Jeep was still gone, R.I.P. Girl Boss Mobile, but my parents' SUV was there. Inside I saw movement, the shadowy figures of people pretending everything was fine. A table was set. Probably Mom's weird pineapple casserole in the middle like a culinary olive branch. They were waiting. I didn't knock. I didn't go in. I didn't even slow down. I just drove around the block and back home to my quiet little apartment, where the lights were on, the bills were paid, and nobody expected me to forgive them for free. But the silence didn't last long. On Monday, I got a text from Bree. "So, you couldn't even show up? After everything? That's cold, Ethan." I ignored it. She followed up. "You're really gonna keep doing this? What's the endgame here? You want us to grovel?" Then she sent another text, and this one was almost impressive in its lack of self-awareness. "It's not fair that your revenge affects everyone. You're punishing all of us for one mistake. We're your family." That word again. Weaponized like a guilt grenade. What they didn't realize was this wasn't revenge. This was just me finally opting out. So I sent one single text. Not a paragraph. Not a rant. Just this. "You made a choice. Now you live with it." 3 dots appeared for a second. Then vanished. Then nothing. The next night, Rachel called, cracking up. "You're not gonna believe this," she said. "Your sister called my repo guy. Dave?" "Yep. She wanted to know if she could buy the car back discreetly and if there was a sibling discount." I choked on my drink. "What did he say?" "He told her he only gives discounts to people who don't try to twerk next to their vehicles on TikTok while being $5,000 behind on payments." Icon. I thanked her again, not just for the help, but for giving me the one thing my family never could, a straight answer. She paused for a beat, then said, "You know, Ethan, you've handled this better than most." "Better than Bree?" I said. She cried on speakerphone while eating string cheese. "You win." Click. Later that week, my landlord told me my lease renewal was coming up, and without thinking, I said I wouldn't be re-signing. Because I'd made another decision. Not just to cut them off, but to move on. And not with anger, but with distance. Peace. Clarity. Sometimes the loudest thing you can say is absolutely nothing. A month later, I stood in my new apartment. It wasn't fancy, just a second-floor unit above a bakery that opened at 6 a.m. and made the whole hallway smell like cinnamon warfare. The walls were off-white, the sink dripped when you looked at it wrong, and the floor creaked like it held secrets. But it was mine. Signed under my name. Paid for with my money. Built from my work. No one else's. The move had been quiet. I didn't post about it. Didn't throw a housewarming. I didn't tell anyone except Rachel and my boss, who approved the relocation since I could work remotely. When I updated my address, I paused before removing the old one, my parents, from my bank, Amazon, everything. It was like deleting a saved game that used to mean something. But I did it. Delete. 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 No shared logins. No link bills. No digital breadcrumbs. I wasn't just gone. I was untraceable. And while they probably noticed, Bree probably refreshed her Snapchat map 5 times before accepting I was just gone, I didn't care. They hadn't reached out again. Not to apologize. Not to make it right. Only silence. At first, I thought that would hurt. But silence isn't always rejection. Sometimes it's relief in disguise. Sometimes it means they finally know they can't manipulate you anymore. I started cooking more. Real meals. Not survival food. I read more. Started journaling again, the kind of entries I used to write when I thought maybe I could feel safe enough to exist without performing. The emergency savings account? I started rebuilding it. Every time I transferred money in, I added a note. New car fund. Rainy day. Not for Bree. It made me laugh. It also made me remember. I didn't lose anything. They did. They lost the version of me who bent until he cracked. They lost the ATM with a pulse. The always available problem solver. The guy who accepted. You always manage somehow. As a compliment instead of a dismissal. And me? I didn't lose a family. I let go of a weight. One afternoon, I walked to the corner cafe, ordered an overpriced matcha, and bumped into an old classmate from high school. We caught up. She asked about my job, my place, my family. I just smiled and said, I'm good. Not because everything was perfect, but because everything was finally mine. And that was enough. That night, I got a text from Rachel. You'd be proud. Dave repoed a yacht. Rich dude tried to flee on it. Legendary. I sent her a thumbs up and a meme of a guy sipping tea with the caption, Managed somehow. And for the first time in a long, long time, I didn't feel bitterness. I felt peace. Because I wasn't chasing approval anymore. I wasn't trying to prove I deserved love by how much I gave away. I wasn't trying to keep people who would sell my trust for leather seats and hashtags. I had boundaries. I had my name back. I had my savings growing, my fridge stocked, and my apartment full of things no one could steal. Most of all, I had me. And no one was taking that back.